Colleagues, we continue our working day at Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and the topic of the next press briefing is the results of the competition on positions of directors of railway company Ukrzaliznytsia and Electrotyazhmash. We have our guest Aivaras Abromavičius, Minister of Economy, Volodymyr Omelyan, Acting Minister of Infrastructure, EBRD Country Director Sevki Adzhuner, and also partner of company talent advisor Bondar, and the senior advisor of the Minister of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine, Adomas Auditskas. Dear friends, dear colleagues, my colleagues and I from the Ministry of from the ministries and from recruiting companies, we congratulate you on the appointing to positions the heads of the company. This topic is very important for us. I had 15 experience in corporate governance, and I had an experience in introduction of technologies in the sphere, and I believe that this process succeeded, and we tried to provide activities in public companies in a proper way, to conduct audit and of competitive nomination for positions, and without change of leadership of the companies, it is impossible to establish transparency. We should improve corporate governance, and in such a way we may say, as Americans say, it's impossible to teach an old dog new tricks. And corruption in public companies were addressed recently, and the Prime Minister and top officials, they say that they are ready to change things in state companies. And the Prime Minister said that the nomination committee at the Ministry of Economy had to conduct competitive employment for 50 top positions in state companies. And during 10 minutes on the 20th of March, the Prime Minister said that in the 6 companies, the heads are appointed not through party quotas, but through transparent selection. And in the other 20 companies, they will nominate this people for these positions. And today, we are ready to share the results of these contests, and we would like to focus on Ukrzaliznytsia company and Electrotyazhmash plant. About the competition. Competition provisions by the Cabinet of Ministers, 777 provision, and the selection committee was established, and they selected the nominees. And then what we changed in the procedure is that there was some pressure, and that's why Competition Commission was at the level of the Ministry of Economy, and for civil servants and independent members of the Commission, and there were some observers, also the representatives of EBRD, OSCE, and International Monetary Fund, and other international organizations. The Commission conduct an interview and then submit the candidatures of the nominees. And several heads were nominated last year, and we wanted to reappoint the heads of the top companies. And what about the results? As you may know, we appointed Ukrzaliznytsia, Ukrzaliznytsia, and Electrotyazhmash, Ukrspirt, Centrenergo, and Ukrenergo companies, and they are in the process. And on Friday, a court hearing blocked the competition of nomination commission for Centrenergo company. Centrenergo is 78% public company and 20% in free circulation, and these shares cost 600 hryvnias, and they blocked this competition. And Ukrposhta competition was completed, and Igor Smilyansky is appointed as a head, and he has 17 experience in consulting and Ukraine and abroad, and global companies such as Boston Consulting Group and KPMG. Igor is from Odessa. He works in New York. He has experience in Ukraine, and he has MBA, and he was Georgian University Law School. Also there was a 29-year-old Ukrainian, also with MBA from Brandeis University from Boston, and now this young man is project manager, and he is in DHL Singapore, and he works on the project in Thailand and Philippines. And we proposed to the newly elected director to review Alexander Versovsky as his first deputy, and as to the Electrotyazhmash. Yesterday we had the resultative meeting of the committee on Ukrzaliznytsia Electrotyazhmash. We reviewed 5 candidates for the positions, and also there were 29 people in competition for Ukrzaliznytsia, and 31 for the plant. And on the whole, there were 260 candidates. And Wojciech Balchun was elected as head of Ukrzaliznytsia. He is very he is one of the leaders, and he was a head of the biggest LBP, and then he headed Polish Chicago Railway Company, and there he reorganized the system and automatization, and he also made this company profitable, and he carried out transformation of the company and turned Chicago in competitor of Deutsche Bank. And he brought the company to IPO, and then he retired. And this candidature is like Slava Karchuk. He is a leader of the most prominent rock band in Poland. And for 4 years, he had the supervisory board, head of supervisory board, and I'm glad that this candidate took part in the competition, and he is one of the 10 best heads of the companies in Poland. And Electrotyazhmash head, Jean-André Barbosa. Jean-André Barbosa is the resident of France and Mexico. 42 years of age. He has 17 years of experience in Western countries and former Soviet Union countries, and he headed Saint-Gobain company, and he headed 3 plants with thousands of employees, and he lives in Ukraine, and his wife is Ukrainian, and he got his education in France. The finalists of these competitions, they are of the highest quality, and this is the result of 2 factors. The first one, because the salary is competitive, and second, it is search for candidate. We attracted them through headhunters, and we can imagine that there was a systemic political pressure and the intrusion of courts in the competition. And what we have now, everything they need is a political support. And despite political pressure, it is needed to carry out reforms in state companies and to nominate these candidates at the Cabinet of Ministers. If the next Prime Minister is going to show his democratic approach, this is his first chance to do this. And these are qualified, highly professional people, and they can make changes in state companies. And the next government should appoint these candidates in order to start fight corruption, not in words, but in action. And I give the floor to EBRD country director, Sevki Adzhuner.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to state that state-owned enterprise reform is one of the most important economic reforms that EBRD and all other IFIs and supporters, as well as the Ukrainian public, consider to be. Yeah, it's extremely good. So the effective and independent management and management without political interference of these enterprises, one of the most important elements of the state enterprise reform that we all yearn for and push for, and we are seeing the benefits of this progress. So I'm particularly pleased and proud to be part of the process of achieving that for all Ukrainians, because we all know that the state-owned enterprises have been poorly managed and have been consuming resources that instead of generating resources for the people of Ukraine. So with this new professional management that we are procuring for these enterprises, and with the continuation of the reforms which will ensure an independent governing body for these enterprises, that I am sure all of these enterprises will turn into profit-making, resource-generating entities for all of Ukraine. We went through a very rigorous process. We continue with that process for the appointment of other CEO, chief executives. Also, as you would recall, that recently we have selected the board of directors, independent board of directors for NAK Naftagaz, and we expect and hope that the appointment of the presidential and the government representatives are also confirmed as soon as possible, so that the board can become effective to really set the first concrete example of this transformation of state enterprise management in action. I just want to say that maybe you know, but it's good to repeat, the makeup of this selection nomination committee is 5 ministerial positions and 5 independent directors, of which I am one. But the presence and the commitment that the ministers have shown to the process also gives everybody, I think, a great hope that the government has been serious about it and will continue to be serious about it. And Aivaras, as you said, that I'm pretty sure that the new government, whichever shape and form it's going to be on, is continue to support that process. But all in all, I want to basically congratulate all the participants on the committee, all the people who really put forward their candidacy in order not to just get the reasonable market salaries that they're going to be paid, but to help this country. I think their primary motivation is to help transform state-owned enterprises. So I also congratulate them and I thank them for their commitment, and we hope to see continued process in this regard. So thank you very much.
Слова запрошується виконуючий обов'язки міністра інфраструктури.
And now we are giving the floor to Mr. Volodymyr Omelyan, Acting Minister of Infrastructure. I have 15 years of experience in civil service. I'm an acting minister of the Minister of Infrastructure when in 2014 we were appointed. And for each vacancy in the Ministry of Infrastructure, we had hundreds of CVs. Some people came to us from business entities, some from ministries, some friends, and everyone told that this candidature is the best. Andriy Pivovarsky was the generator of idea which we use now when he lifted the matter, the question that our competitions, our selection procedures for vacancies should be transparent, and I am very thankful to Mr. Aivaras and also to Mr. Bondaruk for that. We set market level salaries, compatible salaries at the state enterprises for their top managers, because if people are paid 1,000 or 10,000 hryvnias, it is not possible to live in Ukraine. Now we have competitive salaries, we have transparent competition, and we are very thankful to the EBRD, Mr. Sevki, because their impartiality guarantees to us the success of reforms. I am very glad that we have top managers of Ukrposhta and Ukrzaliznytsia, but the fact that they have been selected is not a guarantee for 100 years. When a top manager is elected, this does not mean that his sons or daughters will inherit his position. Either this manager will be working successfully, achieving the goals, or he will be fired. And we will not wait for months or years. We will be fast in taking decisions. And thank you again to my colleagues. They are fantastic. And the work was very deep. Just remember, 1.5 years ago, we had hundreds of papers and we didn't know what to do. And now we are giving the floor to the senior advisor to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine, Adomas Auditskas.
We still don't have these managers in their positions yet. So first, we started very transparent, very professional process. We involved professional recruiters. We involved also stakeholders, international stakeholders, BRD, IMF, and others. And we selected great candidates. You can analyze their achievements, their past performance, but they are not appointed yet. So the final decision will be made by the government. And we hope that the government will make this decision and will not restart this process again. That would be, I think, a big mistake. And also the process is not finished with other 3 companies, which we in the process right now. Hopefully we'll finish this process soon. And I think this is what we're doing right now. This can be standard not only for state-owned enterprises. This standard can be applied to other situations. For example, for public service as well, for public service positions. So great that we have some milestones. The work is not done. Hopefully soon we'll see these managers at their positions, and then they will be showing results at their positions, and efficiencies in state-owned enterprises will be increasing, as we discussed many times. Losses in companies and potential profits that are not achieved in these companies, they can be counted in billions of dollars. These are huge amounts of money, and these funds are needed for the budget. So hopefully we'll finish this process. Thank you.
До слова запрошується партнер компанії Talent Advisors Роман Бондар.
Roman Bondar is given the floor. Firstly, I would like to thank the Minister Aivaras Abromavičius for this honor to take part in this important process and to show high standards. For us, it's very important for our reputation. Also, I would like to be thankful to EBRD and other financial organizations who supported us, and also the embassies of G7 countries who were observers in this process. It helped a lot in order to take right decisions and to oversee how decisions are taken by the Commission and confirm the fairness of these decisions. And also, I want to thank the ministers, Andrei Pivovarsky and others. I want to thank them for their support, by their will, and they supported that this process won't go in vain. So, as a head of one of the competitive commissions, selective commissions, we had these competitions. It was very interesting for us. We expected some resistance, but it's a good sign that there were no sabotage, and I'm very glad with the quality of the commission, nomination commission. There was constructive criticism and discussion of the candidates, and some people asked, what was the main in taking the decisions on the candidates? I would like to say that there are three qualities that we put above everything else. First, zero tolerance to corruption and high professionalism, and also experience in carrying out and introducing changes. And sometimes I see that the drivers of changes of those people who want to serve in public service, the number of people is reduced now, but I believe that we will try to help them. And the Minister of Economy and his colleagues, they created all conditions that best people come to key positions to state-owned companies. Thank you. Thank you, dear colleagues. We have 10 minutes for questions. If you have questions, please introduce yourself and ask. Liban, so I have a question. Tell us, please, what is going on in the country? So they try to get rid of professional people. And who is going to win? Old system or new system? Unfortunately, there are processes that are not very good, but Ukraine becomes transparent. But we have a lot to do to fight corruption. So the situation is rather difficult, but I think and I believe that transparency will be achieved, and we should create conditions in order to create a wave of enthusiasm. Some reformers and technocrats should come to power. Technocrats, all of us are technocrats here. We are reformers with zero tolerance towards corruption. We should create conditions, and we try to create them in state-owned companies, and we need political support. And also, the same should be done at the public servants level, because we came on the in 2014. I believe that our ministry is one of the best employers, and we fired 700 people and hired about 250 people. But starting in but there was a difficult political situation, and we should create incentives for people to come, because only new people can provide changes. If people work in the system for many years, for 10 or 20 years, they cannot make these changes. And why we involve international partners and others? It's very difficult to implement these reforms, of course, and we should, of course, involve new people, those people who didn't serve in the public service previously. So we try to involve those people who were not in service before Maidan. Okay, so the next question, Alexander Rakov and Igor. Mr. Minister, about the candidature for Ukrzaliznytsia, it was said that the person should be with a very good reputation. Can we say that the reputation of Mr. Volodymyr is impeccable, with the view that there was a situation in Polish company with Polish railway company when before IPO, Volodymyr said about his resignation and went on a tour. And Polish newspapers, they wrote that by this, the results of this IPO were compromised somehow. So I have been working in investment business and portfolio for 17 years, and we had a portfolio of 8 million, and we had a cargo company shares among other investments, and this was one of the best IPOs in the region, and I believe that we should look at the experience of the person, and we conducted talks with the candidates, and he said about his priorities and main activities. He understands the complexity of the task as regarding, so you take cargo, you multiply it, and so we need people who will be involved 100% of the activities, and we try to find such people, and we actually find them. Can I add something?
Just comment. Yesterday I had a similar question. I asked this winner the same question. If you are approved a winner and you will successfully reform Ukrzaliznytsia, to which rock band you will enter? We negotiated this question today again. I should have to understand his motivation and his vision. When he worked in PKP Cargo, his task was to prepare the company to IPO. Then the other team was engaged in taking the company to IPO, and he left the company. I think that he was sincere, but indeed the life will soon show us who is sincere and who is not. But I am sure that he will not siphon money from Ukrzaliznytsia to build his own villas all over the world. The question to Mr. Minister, recently in mass media there were articles on Ukrposhta and Ukrspirt candidatures. Selection procedures were alleged to be closed procedures, and the head of the selection committee is a representative of business entity which is selecting candidatures for various sectors, that they can be selected to this state enterprises which I named. Do you think this is a conflict of interest and this violates the law on combating corruption? Lately, those agents in social media and Facebook became more active. This demonstrates the resistance of the system. Who cries most loudly that there were some problems or some video cameras were not installed? This is not normal. In private sector, for example, just imagine that you have not won in some competition for some vacancy. Will you launch some campaigns, PR campaigns on Facebook? Well, this is not normal for corporate world. Just imagine 31 candidatures for Ukrzaliznytsia, so the potential to become a winner is 3%, and people who has jobs, they have low probability to become winners, so they don't agree with their present employers. We just in pre-selection procedure we reject them. So these web cameras, this is just a populistic talks. To Ukrposhta and Ukrspirt, Ukrposhta, yes, the candidature has been selected and the winner has been approved, but at Ukrspirt it was not. We has not completed the process, but we have all the opportunities to have it finished.
It's very clear that the process is very rigorous, and indeed it's a two-stage process. And in the first stage, several dozens, sometimes hundreds of applications are vetted. And in that vetting process, different IFIs, such as EBRD or World Bank Group or IFC, IMF, could have an observer to ensure that nobody's candidate is being put forward unfairly, or no good qualified candidate is being discarded in order to rig the process. So the candidates that are put forward then for the nomination committee goes through that kind of very independent assessment, professional assessment. Then at the nomination committee level, as I explained, you have 5 ministers and 5 independent members who assess them on the basis of their integrity, on the basis of their professional qualifications, on the basis of their motivation for the job, and make a very unbiased decision. So to claim that in one case a particular set of candidates are being put forward or nominated is, to me, complete nonsense. And indeed, we are very proud to resist any pressures from anybody to put a candidate that doesn't deserve to be in front of the committee. So there's no question about the impartiality of the professionalism of the process.
Тоже там прозвучал вопрос, я не полностью ответил, что касается
As concerns the chairman, Sevki, for example, our international partners, they have only consulting votes, they are not decisive votes. But when George Logush, who was the chairman, Sevki acted for him in the nomination committee. The same concerns one level lower when the Ministry of Transport and Ministry of Economic Development representatives are present. We all agree that the independent person should chair the meeting. This is normal for corporate sector and for public sector. When you hire headhunters and to find the best candidatures and pay for services, and customers pay, and we are very thankful to our donors for this opportunity to pay for such high quality headhunting services. The same mechanisms are used in seeking candidatures for NAC Naftagaz top manager positions. We found in British Petroleum and Films several candidatures.
And I understand there's maybe a suggestion that there should be cameras in the process. I think that would be really completely unacceptable, extraordinary, and maybe even ridiculous, because in the course of this rigorous assessment process, sometimes extremely personal and intimate questions are asked of these candidates to complete the assessment. Some of these people are professional, working in other enterprises, so not necessarily their present employers are aware of their candidacy for job. So it's not a public show, but once the candidate is announced, of course, it is everybody's right to ask for all questions and subject the person to all the scrutiny you want. That is what we want. That is what transparency is about. But it's not about putting a public show into a very private and what needs to be a confidential process.
Колега, останнє лаконічне запитання, будемо завершувати.
Aivaras, вопрос скорее к вам.
The question to Mr. Aivaras Abromavičius, you told that there are large plans for privatization. What concerns Ukrzaliznytsia? What about political pressure?
Okay, my resignation also rose the discussion on political nomination and pressure, and because the matters were really bad in state enterprises, despite publicity that we created, that they have to publish their economic, to show their losses, and I didn't take part in commissions on privatization, and there was commission headed by State Property Fund, and the situation that continues in state companies shows that some key enterprises we can have political support, and we can find talented people who will deal with it and will work on this. And as we understand, the reforms are successful when the groups are involved, when they select the heads for the companies, Ukrainian professionals or professionals from abroad. But there are many talented people who can be appointed, but it's very difficult to find a really good candidate for the position. So this is a Klondike for some people that are close to power. Of course, they want to head these enterprises for their own benefit. And it's very difficult to improve the situation, but after my resignation, after my resignation, the second reading, the law was passed by second reading, and we should conduct transparent privatization, and here international financial institutions help us a lot in this process.
The first thing which I would like to mention is that Ukrzaliznytsia will not be sold in the process of corporatization. The assets will be merged, and non-profile assets, as concerns them, the state, the government will take decision what to do with them. We are supporters of maximum privatization of non-strategic facilities, and strategic facilities list to be reduced. Aivaras is telling the truth that we do not have illusions that for thousands of state enterprises we can't find efficient managers, so we should reduce the list.